Hey everybody, my name is MetalMusicMan.
And I'm Professor Lex. I feel like that count in took a little bit longer than normal.
Sometimes you gotta, I gotta keep you on your toes, man.
I had to get into character. I had my action readied.
You gotta consider your whole life before you go on stage.
Oh yeah,
you know,
Jesus. I try not to think.
We almost forgot. And this is episode 36.
Episode 36
of the Metal and Lex podcast. Thank you. Welcome. We don't know what we're doing. We have been.
Oh man,
we've been in.
You're just gonna come out and
I'm gonna come out. I'm gonna expose us, dude.
Yeah, that's okay.
We've been in some writer's block lately. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's been like what do we do? And I think the answer is that we get A2 on here and we bully him into a corner next week.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
So
next week,
if you listen to this podcast and you want to hear us gangbang A2 with your ears, then sound off on Twitter. Ears. Sound off on Twitter. Ping A2 on Twitter, and and tell him that
tweet him at A2.
Yeah, at LSX Andrew. At LSX Andrew. And tell him that you want to. I don't know what we're going to talk to him about, but I think it'll be funny.
I think we got a good idea.
Yeah,
I think we got a couple of good ideas.
I think it'll be funny. So yeah, that's we're still we're still stuck on that. We're just going back to the well too many times with that, but it's it's on our mind. I think it has to happen. If we're going back to the well this many times, it has to happen.
You know how they say never meet your heroes? We've already met him. We're safe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And we'll even let him. He can advertise his resin service where he definitely doesn't make dildos. Definitely. Is that the slogan? Is that the A2
catchphrase?
resin where we definitely don't make dildos? See, why aren't I the marketing manager for his company?
Oh, seriously, yeah, dude, you should hire Andrew. Huge. I know you listen.
They'd be huge by now, dude. They'd be huge. So yeah, this week we were gonna record last night, and then we were a little late to get to the Street Fighter party.
Fell apart. That was my fault. I was working on a Kwanzaa project with Aunt Debbie. I know that you guys know
Kwanzaa.
Do what?
We gotta talk about the Kwanzaa. How did we?
Of course, we gotta talk about Kwanzaa.
We gotta talk about the Kwanzaa. Aunt Debbie Kwanzaa. She did the Kwanzaas. She's a Kwanzaa-nator.
Well, this will be the first Kwanzaa that she's thought about celebrating, probably, because as all right. So the church. Aunt Debbie's church.
Yes.
It's kind of a big church. It's not like, mega pastor or whatever. It's just large and in St. Louis. And so they said, hey, Aunt Debbie. They probably didn't call her Aunt Debbie, but it would feel weird if I did.
I think they probably
anything
did.
else.
Yeah.
So they said, hey, Aunt Debbie, you're Black. You've done Black history stuff for your students in the past when you've been a teacher. Could you
tell us about the Kwanzaa?
Tell us about Kwanzaa.
And then I said and interjected in real life, as I am right now, to Alex. I was like, "Oh yeah, what religion thing is Kwanzaa?"
And as we all know, because we've all studied Kwanzaa, it's not a religion. It's not a religious holiday.
Which I didn't know, and I will say I have spent some time being an in-home tech in Ferguson. I have spent a lot of time in Black people's houses. And a lot of them, not a lot of them, but several of them to my memory have had like Kwanzaa related things in the past.
A kinara.
And I was like, hey, neat like Kwanzaa stuff. Like I vaguely understand Kwanzaa exists. I assume it's a religion. I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. None of them, not fucking one of them told me that Kwanzaa wasn't a religion. They were just like, oh, that's so nice. Set up our Wi-Fi, you weird child. Leave us alone. So I had no idea. I was 23, so I looked like I was 11 and a half.
You came up to a solid 15.
Yeah, probably. I had no idea it wasn't religious at all.
Yeah,
but Aunt Debbie does now. She knows.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. When they asked her, "Hey, can you tell us about Kwanzaa?" She was like, "Oh, sure. Yeah, call your Black person out. Ask them to teach you about Kwanzaa and whatever." And we all worked under the understanding and thought that Kwanzaa is just bullshit, right? Yeah, I as a Black individual myself have thought that Kwanzaa is just bullshit. It's fake Christmas, and you know what? It's not bullshit.
It kind of is, but it isn't.
It's made up, but all holidays are made up. Stay woke. And that's right.
But it's a recent made up holiday. It's like oh god, there's someone's dying in the background. I don't know if that's picking up on my mic or not, but the fire department is killing somebody.
carrying someone off right now.
Yeah, they're going crazy. No, it's Valentine's Day, but better. Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah, okay.
So where Valentine's Day is like, hey, spend a bunch of money on these cards because quote unquote you love people, but in reality, the card companies just want to make money. Kwanzaa is like, hey, do this stuff because maybe it's like, you know, good to know things and have things that black people can celebrate, which is, you know, basically the same as capitalism. I mean, how dare they?
So to take
They're trying to get me to buy Kwanzaa cards. God damn it! I'm sick of having to spend this money on Kwanzaa.
I'm so sorry.
My whole life, all 30 some odd years, I've been buying these fucking Kwanzaa cards every Kwanzaa Eve, and it's
the 25th out there, just in case you're wondering what Kwanzaa Eve is.
Yes.
So back in 1965, I don't know if you all have heard of the Watts riots. My dad had, but my dad is black.
I hadn't, and did not know of these.
Because
the American education system.
I was going to say, it's not
fantastic.
your fault that you didn't know.
No, I agree. I blame the education system.
It's the American education system. Well, actually, okay. So here's what happened. Here's the fucked up thing. So there was a traffic incident, we'll say, and the police pulled over a black guy. Stop me if you've heard this one before. And then violence erupted.
There was once a routine traffic stop.
And I'm sure they're deeply regretting it now. And if you hear my cat in the background, he's a black cat, so he's very excited to hear us talking about Kwanzaa.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, sorry. It was in the Watts neighborhood in Los Angeles, and the police pulled the guy over, and you know the police are there to protect and serve, not to act as judge, jury, and executioner, and that's the crux of the issue here. Whether or not the guy was at fault, whether he was drinking and driving or wasn't, is immaterial. It was not the responsibility of the police to turn around and then shove this dude's mom over for saying, "Please don't kill my son." Mm-hmm. So do you hear him?
I do hear him. I do.
Okay, good.
I hear him meowing. He's meowing.
I'm debating letting him. Oh, fine. Okay, give me a second.
Okay. Lex's cat is just violently meowing at the door. What? Let me in. I want to be on the podcast. I know all about Kwanzaa, you motherfucker. Let me tell you about Kwanzaa. I was
misrepresenting it.
Yeah, I'm being your cat.
You've
got it all wrong, you fucking idiot. You don't know. I just read the Wikipedia article last night. Meow. Let me in.
No, do you see him in the corner? He just wants to sit in that chair.
Yeah.
He just wants to sit in that chair and stare out the window. I have to pull the curtain back so he can look in the bush.
What a guy.
He's going to do that for the next hour. Anyway.
All right, I believe in him.
Routine traffic stop. His mom came out and was like, "Hey, whoa, this is getting kind of fucked up." And so they shoved him, and then the people were like, "Whoa, you can't just like shove my mom. She's old. That'll hurt her. She could break a hip and die or something." And then violence erupted. It was the worst riots in LA, and I would prefer to call it an uprising. It was the worst until the LA riots from 1992, I think, as the Don King riots.
Until the Rodney King riots. You have to stop.
Rodney King.
We talked about this the other night, and he was calling it the Don King riots.
Don King riots.
And I was like, man, I feel like I know about the LA riots, but I've never heard Don King. And we went back and forth for about 5 minutes. And he was like, how do you not know about this, Will? Even the shitty education system. I'm like, man, I don't know. Do you mean like... And I couldn't think of his name. He had like mind fucked me. And then I was like, oh, Rodney King. And he's like, yeah, Don. And then I also learned that Don is short. Don is short for Rodney? How is that a thing? That's like Jack and John are short for like.
You don't need to shorten John is the thing because it's
Jack
one syllable and it's 4 letters.
Jack is apparently a variation of John. Why are these names? So I don't
make the rules.
I understand like Rob and Robert and Bob. Like, even though Bob is a different, at least part of it is the same. No. Don is nothing like Rodney. There is no
all the letters for Don are in Rodney.
They're in totally different orders. That's not.
So
get out of here.
It's not like you're not synthesizing a B like you do for Robert.
It'd be like if I said that you should.
Robert had 2 B's.
You should call me like Zigglepuff, and that was short for William.
No. Because you don't have half those letters. You gotta be careful.
Fine. Anyway, there were some riots.
it was a horrible time. It was like dozens of people died, hundreds of injuries, thousands of arrests. They called in like 3,000 National Guard troops. Again, stop me if you've heard this one. But like the point of it is this dude Maulana Karenga. I didn't tell you the best parts of Maulana Karenga.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So your Kwanzaa education will continue.
All right.
Maulana Karenga was like, we got to find some way to channel this into a positive force. We have to find some way to take all of these energies that are currently exploding around us and take and do something positive. And he was like, also, it's fucked up that Black people keep celebrating Christmas because it's just imitating the practice of the dominant society. So Black people should stop doing Christmas
once they get into whatever dominant society. Like, except
for the Jewish people and the Chinese people. That's why so many Jewish people eat Chinese food for Christmas. It's like Christmas solidarity.
They've got an agreement. They've got an agreement. Well, no, I don't mean like ours. I mean like Christmas itself has been. I mean, everybody knows. You know, it was originally a pagan thing, and then it became the Jesus-y Christmas that it is because Christians weren't. They weren't the dominant society. They absorbed the pagans, and then they made Christmas a little more pagan-y and made it on the winter solstice. Like, hey, Jesus was born in winter because that's when you used to bring your tree in, weird pagan people that we conquered. And they were like, oh, cool, we'll just call it Christmas. You don't know about that?
Do we call that? No, I know that. Does that count as gentrification?
Well, I don't know. Are we talking about the kind of gentrification that's sometimes kind of nice because you get a cool restaurant and a place to live? Or are we talking about the kind of gentrification that's horrible and takes away the soul of... excuse me. They're both the same gentrification, and there is no right or wrong answer because sometimes it's kind of neat and other times it's awful and the most horrible thing ever. Gentrification, an interesting topic. I don't think there is any way to talk about gentrification without it. I remember actually a while ago while we're on this kick, I was like, I have had like separate thoughts, right? I've had like on my own, like at various times in history, I've been like driving around thinking about the world. And I think like, oh, gentrification. And then I've at different times when I've had that thought, I've had the thought like, oh, that's awful. Oh, that sounds kind of nice and convenient. And then like, I remember at one point I realized like, this is years ago, but like I realized like what a rift there was, right? Depending on like the ways that it occurred or whatever. And I Googled it, and if memory serves, the Google definition of gentrification specifies that it is like a highly contested topic of whether it is or isn't.
I think a lot of people don't necessarily want to be like shoehorned into the dominant society necessarily. We'll just look at Maulana Karenga, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's super true, but I don't think it's always necessarily like a bad thing to be. Well, I don't know. I think that's like you're sort of looking at like that's like a simplified analogy of America as a whole, right? How much of you assimilating into American culture is good and will actually thereby change American culture, which is sort of kind of the whole point of American culture, which is that there isn't a culture and it's sort of, ebbs and flows with
pot.
Yeah, all that. And, obviously this is, wistful thinking to some degree, but I mean, there is an amount of it where it's like, how much of it is good because that like you are joining like a new thing. And then how much of it is bad because you're losing whatever culture you had and I don't think there is or can be a measured mathematical this is the right amount of.
You can't quantify.
You can't quite. Yeah. So I don't. I don't think
you can. You can, however, Kwanzaafy it, which is important because the second principle of Kwanzaa is kujichagulia, which of course is self-actualization.
You're gonna have to say that again.
Kujichagulia.
All right.
Nailed it. So that's self-actualization, self-determinism. That's understanding who you are and declaring what you will continue to be.
All right. Yeah. I can get down with that.
Right? That's the thing. Kwanzaa isn't really bullshit. Like the seven principles are. I mean,
it's a tenet with belief systems. It's just less rooted in dumb bullshit religion and more rooted in like, hey, let's empower people who maybe didn't have a cool holiday? Question mark? Yeah. Which makes it a lot less bullshit, actually. No, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a lot less bullshit than most things like that.
Go on. Christmas, just say, for example, where you're like, nah, fuck you. You get your Christmas tree. Yeah, for Christ. That's why you call it a Christmas tree. Come on, man.
That's clearly that's what it is. Yeah, it's
which is just the foundation of lies.
Pagan people celebrated like the death and life of nature. That actually is the funniest thing about the whole like Christmas, especially, is like how much people who don't think about any of this just accept that, and they're like, "What do you mean? Like, of course the Christmas tree is part of Jesus." And you're like, "Well, have you really ever thought about that? Because I'm pretty sure Jesus. I mean, I know you think he was a white dude
tree of Christ
living in the desert, but even going past the part where he is the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan white dude in the middle of Jerusalem for some reason. Let's say we just give you that one. Let's say we give you that.
We'll give him a pass.
It could be. It was hard. It was hard to travel back then, but it's not an impossibility. It's not an impossibility that Aryan, long-haired Jesus happened to end up in Jerusalem back then. That's actually not impossible. All right, fine. We'll give you that. However, it is literally impossible for a conifer to grow in
the desert.
In the desert. Yeah. That's not a thing.
Looking at you, early Christians.
Oh my God. So anyway, second tenet of Kwanzaa, you said, is self-actualization.
Yeah, I won't go over all of them. The first one's Umoja is like unity. Second one's Kujichagulia, which is self-determinism.
Didn't you just learn about Kwanzaa's existence with Aunt Debbie 5 seconds ago, for the most part?
No, like a month ago.
Sure,
working on this project,
but now you know all of the Kwanzaa tenets?
You remember that time when you told me in passing how to beat you at Street Fighter? It applies to other things. It's not just Street Fighter.
You hear a thing and it just it clicks. And Debbie was like, very quickly, here are the tenets of Kwanzaa, like within like 30 seconds, and then you've just never forgotten them.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can do them all.
Oh, so we got. You're gonna say so many words.
Umoja, Kujichagulia, Ujima, Kuumba. Imani is the last one, so I'm missing 2. I'm missing 2. He is one of them, so I'm only missing 1.
How racist is it if I think those all sound like really delicious food dishes?
They're not really delicious food dishes, but they could be. Yeah, they could be delicious.
You never know.
Yeah.
I don't know any of those. Hats off to you. That's several. That's several more than I know. 6 out of 7
is not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So the whole idea, the way that you participate in Kwanzaa, and you can do this at home, viewers, or will.
I can participate in Kwanzaa?
You can participate in Kwanzaa. You don't have to be black to do Kwanzaa.
I don't want to gentrify Kwanzaa, bro.
You can't. Well, okay.
I can't.
So
I can't gentrify.
You can't gentrify Kwanzaa. No, it's you are but one man.
Okay.
You're
okay.
white.
I see.
You don't have that much power. So back in 1965, Maulana Karenga, who I will still go back to and tell you how fucking hilarious he is. Back then he was like, nah, white people will you should not be celebrating Kwanzaa.
Oh, it's new. They have gentrified Kwanzaa. It sounds like it's already been done.
No, because he changed his mind. He was like, you know what? That's exclusive talk, and we're not trying to exclude people.
Yeah, good for him.
I think it was that, and also he didn't want people to think it was like this factionalized, you must celebrate Kwanzaa or Christmas, and then you're being bad as a black person if you don't celebrate Kwanzaa. But in either rate, you're more than welcome to do this. And the way that you do this, typically you light the Mishuma Saba, which are the candles, the 7 candles. There's 3 red, 3 green, and 1 black candle.
No, he didn't just make this all up, though. It's from, it has roots in something else.
African first fruits celebrations,
yes,
which were a religious festival that involved like it was the first harvest, right?
So he sort of cut and pasted it from.
Yeah. He took a lot of the religion out, but left in some of the ritual. And that kind of adds up. That makes sense because they sacrificed some of the first harvest as an offering to say, can we continue to have nice things like vegetables?
The first harvest being like corn and potatoes, not like their firstborn.
No, you don't know. Well, but the corn represents children who are the future.
Sure, totally. Corn. Children of the Corn. Never mind, I've got it. Yep. There it is.
Now you got it.
Corn was all about Kwanzaa. I knew about Kwanzaa in middle school. I just didn't know it at the time. I was listening to Corn.
Thanks a lot.
Corn and Ice-T. That's why Ice-T featured on the album, bro. He wanted to teach me about Kwanzaa.
Yeah, Kwanzaa, and you weren't listening. Thanks a lot, American education system
that I got. Who knew?
So that bit of the ritual still got translated into the Kwanzaa festival, where you had the mkeka, which is a woven mat, and you place your offerings on the mat, and that's where you'd get your corn. Right? You can still do that, but you don't have to do that.
Well, you put the corn there. You didn't get it from there, right? That would be some magic.
No, you can't grow corn.
You can't summon corn
from the woven mat. No, you grow the corn and then you put it on the mat as an offering. See, now it's adding up.
There it is.
No, so the way that I would recommend celebrating this between December 26th and January 1st, which is how long Kwanzaa lasts, you do this by you light the candle of the Mishima Sabah. Each of them represents one of the 7 principles, and then you just talk with your family or whoever's listening to you about like how you feel you relate to that idea for the day. So the first principle, umoja, is unity, coming together, working together, and being a cohesive group. You can talk about how you just did that, like how we sat here and we worked together, you and I and me in part with Aunt Debbie, to further our understanding of the Black community. Is that easy?
Do you? So that's good and cool. Here's where I find this interesting. Because for me, as I believe we have discussed a couple other times in this podcast, perhaps recently, I'm not a big fan of the religions, generally speaking. And what interests me about what you're saying is that even though it's not rooted in religion, it is focusing just on like the ritual aspect. There are parts of that like when you say it out loud, even though I can rationalize that it's all like event. It's not, and that it is all positive, right? Like what you're saying.
Sure.
It still kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies, if I'm being honest, a little bit, just because I think
lighting a candle.
No. It's I think the ritualistic aspect of it. I think ritual kind of weirds me out implicitly, and as I'm discovering as I say this out loud, a little bit just because of what it is. I guess it doesn't apparently need to be rooted in a religious belief to kind of
religious
it's a little
structure.
I think it's a little weird to me. Like it's like if you sit in on like a mass and everyone at the mass they're all saying the same thing all at once. And to them it's all such a, I guess, good thing. They don't see it any other way. And for me, I'm just kind of like, man, it's really fucking weird.
I'm creeped out. I saw Children of the Corn. This is no good.
You're all just like, yes, send on the blah, blah, blah with the blah and the hujjabujjwa. And you're just like, man, it's really weird that everybody's saying the exact same thing. And they all...
Y'all are real hive-mindy right now.
Yeah. So even, and it's weird because sometimes it is just a positive thing, which I think in this instance is the case, right? You're just like, hey, what do you know about this? But there is something about it. I don't know. There's something about like the ritual
that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, the ritualism of it though is a little bit weird. Like even if implicitly the idea itself is fine, like right, we're all going to sit down and we're going to talk about how it's great to eat a can of beans. To eat a can of beans. No, well, I'm going to make it more simple than that.
Okay,
but sure, to be unified. But then it's like there's nothing wrong with eating a can of beans. It's even maybe pretty great to eat a can of beans. But the fact that we're all like. I feel like you could do that on almost any topic and it would weird me out a little bit as I'm thinking this through. There's something a little weird about like, today is the day where we sit down and we remind each other
about the can of beans.
That sometimes we eat cans of beans and we share something about like giving it that official, like,
the fact that it's can of beans day.
Yeah. And then you all I don't know. Like we just talked about this last night and I didn't have that realization until this second.
Just now. Okay.
Just now. It's not. I mean, it's not like I'm not like going to lose my sleep over it. It's not that bad, but it is a little bit like, we're all going to sit around and we're going to talk about what would you say your shared Black experience and all that.
Yeah.
And I don't even if you had come to me and been like, I had a conversation with my Aunt Debbie about our shared Black experience, I would just be like, oh, neat. That sounds like you had a good converation. But if you told me I had a conversation on shared Black experience day where we something about that is, I'm just kind of like,
the structure freaks you out.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why. I think
is it because it's not unprompted?
Yeah,
it doesn't feel as organic to you?
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Yeah, I think there's something weird about the forced nature of it that makes me leery of it.
A little uncomfortable?
Yeah, I think so.
I would like to say, to distinguish it from Mass, where everyone gets together and recites the Nicene Creed or whatever, everyone knows the words to the Nicene Creed. And you all...
Creed a real thing?
Is it not nice?
Maybe it is. I don't know.
Me. Look it up. Look, you do that while I'm talking.
Nicene Creed is a book by... We believe in one God the Father. Oh, I didn't know that had a name. Yeah. I didn't know that had a name. I know that.
Nicene Creed.
I didn't know it had a name. Look at you. All right.
I might have pronounced it wrong, but I think
you are right. You are right.
So everyone knows the words to that, right?
I do.
Yes. And so everyone says it in unison, and it's creepy, and it has that sort of hive mindy effect. But like the structure still exists. It's not entirely unprompted when everyone sits down on Umoja Day to talk about unity. But like you get to share your personal experience with it, and it's more of a conversation than it is a mantra. And I appreciate that difference.
I think that makes it way better.
Yeah. Way better. And I'm not saying that it can't still give you the heebie-jeebies, because it is Talk About Unity Day, but I think it's still better than everyone sit down and chant. As
heebie-jeebies go, it's like not even in the same ballpark, because it's heebie-jeebies about like actual real things, not like. But yeah, no, it. Anyway, I don't really have a point. That's just that's a thought that I had just now as we were talking about it that I wasn't prepared to experience going into this.
Okay, so let me give you the darker side of Maulana Karenga, because of course Kwanzaa is fine. We can separate the art from the artist. Yeah, Maulana Karenga is kind of fucked, man.
Like
I don't go into this,
or as it is presently, like the original.
Maulana Karenga is an individual. He's the guy who invented Kwanzaa.
Excuse me. I forgot his name already. Okay.
No, you're good.
See, there are so many different terms. I have already forgotten them all. I thought that was the name.
This term is just...
I thought that was the name.
I was talking about the Mishuma Sabah again.
There it is. They both have M's. They both have M's in them. I don't know. We already discussed how the education system failed me. We'll call him...
totally failed you.
We'll call him Bob K Wanzaa. No. All right? That's his name.
No, I'm going to look up... I think his name is like... Ronald McKinley Everett or something, some silly. Holy shit, I was right. It's Ronald McKinley Everett.
Why
that was
do you
his
remember
name.
These things?
Because I said it out loud earlier.
Anyway, he has a dark side.
Yeah. Okay.
He murdered a man.
He didn't murder a man, but so he created a black nationalist group called Us. Right. That's fine. This is not the bad part. One of the tenets of being a part of Us was that you had to shave your head, wear traditional African attire, take on a Swahili name, which is how he went from Ronald McKinley Everett to Maulana Karenga. He's got a middle name, but I didn't look up how to pronounce it.
Match yourself to someone who looks just like you and stab them with golden scissors.
What?
Us.
Okay. I got you. So he had all these weird sort of like, you have to do these things in order to celebrate being black. You have to shave your head. In order to celebrate being black, you have to wear, African clothing. Which is a little weird and off-putting, but not as off-putting as the sexual abuse allegations.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I'm gonna paraphrase this because I haven't really looked into it, because that's not the sort of thing that I think the church was looking for us to cover in the Kwanzaa celebration bit. But
what do you think the odds are that any dude, just a normal dude, me or you, what do you think the odds are that they end up in a situation where they have weird power and sway over someone? And they just become,
they just
become a rape beast, or versus that they don't. Because I feel like a lot of times,
it's like better odds that you become a bad person.
Okay,
I have very little faith in mankind.
Well, so I generally do too, but I am, I think, inclined to believe more often than not that the people who ended up there probably because they were already
they were
that.
the type. Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I'm always like a little curious because I know some people don't think that they think absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely, sure.
But I don't know very many people who just sort of like fall in to absolute power. I don't know many dudes, as great as it is to be, like a white dude. I don't know many dudes.
As wonderful as it is.
I don't know many dudes that are just walking down the street and they're like, oops, I inherited a fucking Fortune 500 company that I'm the CEO. Like, it never seems to happen that way. Like, you're either born into it and corrupted anyway, or you're
the type of person who would rise to power.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I am. Yeah. Anyway, that whenever something like that comes up, you mentioning him like being, great guy does great things. Oops, he's a piece of shit. Also, it's more like, like
Oops,
did he
all sexual assault allegations?
Did he become a piece of shit because of what he did, or was he already
was
like that?
A piece of shit?
And do you kind of need to be a little bit of a piece of shit to do anything on that grand of a scale?
To accomplish something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know where the line is. Yeah. But I can tell you the line is certainly before beating women with electrical cords and karate batons.
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah.
Why didn't you tell me this before? I wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah.
I thought Ronald K Wanzaa was a very nice, wonderful man, and you're blowing my mind in real time. Is he still alive?
No. I think so. Double check. Google. I got the Wikipedia page pulled up. Yeah, he's 79 years old. Chilling. Just Wanzaa. Big chilling. Did you Google Ronald K Wanzaa?
I want you to know that when I Googled Ronald K Wanzaa.
Is it K space Wanzaa?
Yes. The first result is Malana Karenga on Wikipedia. Is Google just that good, or are all white people that predictable?
Oh no!
Ronald K.
Oh no!
Do me a favor, guys, right now on Google. Ronald space K space Wanza. Enter.
Oh, you only did one A.
Kwanzaa if I did two, I bet it's still he's on both. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
He's on both. I want you to know if you type 1A, there's no picture. If you type 2As, they're more certain, and then there's a picture of him. And by the way, this guy basically might as well be CeeLo's grandpa, as far as I can tell, based on the picture that I'm looking at. So his rapiness is less surprising.
I was going to say, yeah, CeeLo, also a rapist.
After having looked at him, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, goddamn Google, I wasn't prepared for that.
Racist piece of shit Google. Yeah, so he's not. I don't think he's necessarily all on the up and up. And I think you can still celebrate Kwanzaa without, having to beat a woman with electrical cables.
I'm sorry. Did you just equate beating people with electrical cables to, quote, not necessarily being on the up and up?
It's no. Okay. Let me backtrack to explain my joke, because that'll make it funnier.
Okay.
It's all allegedly. Oh, it's probably the recent case. No, but there's still. I think there's still just allegations. I'm not sure. I know he was arrested. So the Black Panther movement, right?
Sure.
You know that the Black Power movement was actually a big factionalized thing. It wasn't just the Black Panthers were the Black Power movement.
Yes.
Okay. So his organization, was actually pitted against the Black Panther movement. Yeah, right. So they were like, "This is how you should be black."
Are they Black Powerier then?
No, it's a different flavor.
Okay.
This is like a Protestant and
sure,
whatever. Yeah, it's a factionalization of the Black Power movement. The Black Panthers were a Black Power movement. US was an organization that was a part of the Black Power movement. But they had different
and squares
thoughts. Yeah. They both have like Marxist roots, which is pretty cool. But like the important issue here is that they had beef, and the FBI hates black people, and decided to pit them against each other. And so they did this by writing letters allegedly from the opposite organization addressed to the other. So the Black Panthers would like go into their mailbox and then pull open a letter and it'd say, "This is from Ronald K Wanzaa. Hey, you guys aren't shit. I'm gonna fight you."
You know what I think is really interesting about that, like tactically, is how seemingly ineffective it would be now.
You'd think.
Because you could just like call them up and be like, "Hey, motherfucker, what the fuck did you just say?" And then they'd be like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And I guess maybe it could still work, but like, I guess, I mean, there is all the problems with like, you know, fake news, social media, whatever the fuck you want to call it, shit. So I guess that's sort of that version of it now, but it seems like the likelihood of it being as pointed as that seems less likely to me.
You'd have to add more like bells and whistles to the attack. It would have to be more nuanced than that.
Yeah,
you could still get the same effect, but it'd have to be a nuanced play.
Yes, yeah, that's an interesting difference. Anyway, okay, so yeah, secret wars.
Yeah. So Karenga was arrested for a tussle between the Black Panthers and us. I think that's his only real arrest record. I think I could definitely be wrong, but that's all I remember seeing. But he's got a sort of storied past beating women with electrical cables and karate batons. Kwanzaa though, Kwanzaa's on the up and up.
Celebrate Black Kwanzaa. People, come on, hey, things and words, okay.
Light the Kinara, yeah.
Jesus. Why? It's always, God, dude, it's, oh my God, you can never have nice things.
Oh,
like, no one can ever have anything nice in this world. It's just, oh God, that's depressing. Man.
But yeah, don't let that stop you. On the 26th of gathering around the Kinara and lighting the Mishima Sabah.
I don't think I'm going to gather around a Kinara, but I might, you know,
COVID.
I might think about Kwanzaa on the day of it. That's. Oh, there's a cat. Yeah, God, that. Oh, Jesus, you have stupefied me a bit with that last bit there. Alex is doing cat petting. What a bastard!
I'm still here.
I can't think while you pet that cat. He's too adorable.
He's so cute.
Oh
he's
my!
So cute.
Oh my goodness gracious! This is now a cat podcast. Let's talk about horrible Kwanzaa. Horrible.
Some other sad day.
Yeah, horrible Kwanzaa abuse. FADC cats. Anyway, we were going to talk about other things, but this has now become a Merry Kwanzaa podcast. Episode. So, you know.
Ronald K Wanzaa. There you go.
I cannot fucking know.
That's pretty fucked up. I'm just going to say it.
I think it's kind of amazing, actually. I kind of think it's the best thing that has happened to me all week. Like, why is that actually a thing?
Slow week.
I mean, yeah, it's just, well, yeah.
it's still COVID.
Yeah, it's still COVID season, let's be honest. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, our viewers now know about Kwanzaa. You can celebrate Kwanzaa.
You too may celebrate. You don't need. Yeah, I'm giving you a pass. You don't need. You can call this gentrification if you want. You don't need the Kinara. You don't need the Mishima Sabah. Just like sit around and talk about like how you work together sometimes.
I think that is definitively gentrification because you're directly making it more accessible and appealing.
I'm erasing.
Yeah. But
I didn't mention anything about Swahili.
But is that a bad thing? This goes right back to where we were at. Wow.
It is a bad thing, but I'm taking the burden of responsibility. I'm taking that burden. I'm the bad guy.
But I think you're doing it a bit of a disservice. I think this is the essence of that entire conversation because you are gaining more exposure and therefore supporting the root cause by making it more accessible, by slightly erasing a little bit to make it more accessible.
If we may bring this full circle, I am making the Street Fighter V of Kwanzaa.
Yeah. Yes. Street Fighter V is not all bad. As much as
it's very accessible.
It's pretty bad, but it's not all bad.
Okay. I take it back. You don't need the Kinara, but you do need the Makeka so that you can put your offerings on it.
All right.
Is that okay? Is that a good compromise?
I mean, can't I just use like any mat? Does it have to be a special one?
It's got to be woven. It must be woven.
Well, Alex, I don't have a woven mat. Can it just be?
You better get weaving.
Can it just be one that's like rubberized and it has Art Deco lettering that says laundry, wash, dry, fold? Because I already have that mat. It's on my floor. I think that's. Just give me
good enough.
Give me a little more erasure here so I can buy in. Is it
weatherized?
Right? Yeah. Well, it's great. Well, yeah, we're good to go.
That's pretty sturdy.
That's basically the same thing.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, every black person I know have let us down. Not the organization. Fuck them. I'm not shaving my head.
Well, you had a tough audience of me. I don't think you were ever going to get anywhere. Yeah. Jesus Christ. This is 40 minutes. We talked about Kwanzaa. I don't think there's any need to pretend like we're going to talk about anything else. I think this is the podcast.
Oh God, no. That's been about a podcast.
This has been the podcast. So I have been MetalMusicMan.
And I've been Professor Lex.
And we will Kwanzaa you guys next time.
Pew pew. Umoja.
Later.